keyword going out and doing her duty. So that is Poppy Khoza. But let's stick with the word integrity. And I want to bring in Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman from the Gift to the Givers on the line. As we all aware, Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman, very much the founder of that organization. Imtiaz, appreciate your time as always. Thanks for joining me. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
Thank you. And I'll tell you what, the specific angle I want to focus on is this part. Once again, when the KZN floods occurred, and again, there was issues of funding, and government said, we're going to have some relief fund. I mean, there was just this, it's almost ridiculous. There's just this incredible outpour from people, the general public. And as you know, I'm certainly very connected to many people who are champions in their fields. And it's like, well, we're going to give the money to a gift to the givers. And it's almost embarrassing because I hear that all the time, right? How do you respond when you get that sort of absolute upfront public recognition and acknowledgement of, like, we trust gift of the givers above all else?
It's important, Ashraf. It's good for us. It's very motivating to my team. They work Monday to Sunday. They go long weekends, the Easter weekend. They work the whole weekend. We actually on Sunday, on Easter Sunday, we told them we're giving you guys off. You guys are burnt out. Within an hour, they called back. They said, no, there's too much people in need. We can't take off. We have to work. And it's that kind of, and when you get that kind of sentiment in the public, it shows people appreciate what they do. People trust our honesty. We have got a 30-year track record. We've proven ourselves. It's not something that happened overnight. It shows that over the years, people have been watching, and finally, 30 years later, they're saying we want to give it to you guys. And they've seen us in everything, pedal to COVID-19 to July unrest, because this is where the government's involved directly. It's not some different type of. This is where the government is involved in COVID, involved in July unrest to solve the problem, and involved in the floods in a big way. And in all three areas, we got involved in a very big way. And people saw the difference that we made at low cost. We upgraded hospitals, we delivered CPAP machines, we took in PPEs when those things were being stolen, and people have just had about enough of money being stolen. And it makes us feel good that people trust us, and we're transparent, we're clear. They can see us on the ground. They get calls from family members on the ground, from the rural areas to say, these people were here, you're in a private company, please make sure your company supports them. Those are the kind of messages that we get all the time.
And what sort of checks and balances do you put in place? I mean, on two levels. The one is, money in, money out, and the second one, of course, is ensuring the level of field work and relief work that you purport to do, that you actually follow through and do that. So I know you do it. What I'm asking is, what are the checks and balances that are put in place from the top all the way down to the bottom?
We've got two different accountants involved with us. We got first of all our own accounts that do all the paperwork. Then they have an outside accountant group that looks at it, and a third person that joins the other two. And now we added a new one. We've got bigger companies dealing with us to make sure everything is correct. Our advantage is because we get corporate business, they go through everything with a fine comb. Big corporate companies, big accounting firms, and the fact that we vetted by them, even international companies, have supported us, and they go through everything with a fine tooth comb to the point they don't ask questions anymore. They don't even worry anymore. They go through the thing and they said, we're quite satisfied. SARS donates to us. The Auditor General donates to us. These are all important bodies. The Reserve Bank gives us clearance to take money outside, to transfer it. You can't get that done. There's something wrong with your finances. So everything is checked, and we're happy to tell them to check. Please go through it over and over again. If you have a problem, please let us know. And we never have an issue. In terms of distribution, we do it ourselves. We don't pass it on to somebody else. We do it ourselves. Our team's on the ground. We've got a system where every person that goes on the ground has to give feedback, sign documents, how many were distributed, which truck went, the truck number, satellite tracking of the truck, the invoices, the delivery notes, whatever comes in, whatever goes out. Everything is checked. That we have to increase that department, put more people in, because the organization has grown, and we're doing multiple projects at the same time in one day. So everything has a checks and balance. And those are the same things that auditors need. They come here for 3-4 weeks, they go through everything, they check what you're doing, and if there's something that's wrong, they say you need to implement this, you need to fix this, you need to do something better, or just change this. So to fit their system, we have to do what they want. But fortunately, we have no major issues. They've been very happy with what we've done.
Okay, because I mean the point you bring up is important, and the reality, and of course, you forgive me for saying this, I need to make the comparison to money going to government, right? Because that's the essence of the problem, right? That government also knows, via the Auditor General. I mean, there should be checks and balances every single day. But the reality is that's not happening, or it's happening long after the event, when you find that leading figures of high influence within government are committing acts of fraud or corruption, right? How do you then do it differently compared to what they possibly doing?
Well, you can see now, because it happens all the time after the event. This time the public uproar was before the event. Before the money was released, they said, you know what, we don't want it to go anywhere else. And because all the time, by the time you find out the money is spent and it's gone, and what government is consistent, it's not like it happened 1 year, it happens every year. The things are disappearing. Now, for 30 years, we never had a negative issue with the auditors. So, if there's a problem, they would have put an alert. But because they don't see anything wrong with what we're doing, they may just want the things change in the way we present it, or the way we write it, or the way we enter it. That's the only difference. But every year, they're happy with what we do, and that's why we never had a negative issue for years. And the fact is that the donors keep increasing. They don't increase. The number of donors are increasing, and the contributions from the existing donors are increasing, which means we're doing something right.
Well, and you know this, I'm certainly aware of how many people, in big business virtually speak to me every week about like how they need to connect with you. And yes, it's not like it's unsolicited. You don't ask them, and I'm not asking them. They're just coming up and doing that. So there's something that you're doing right. Talk to me, therefore, about your team, because it can't just be you, right? I mean, clearly you can't have eyes and ears everywhere around the country and around the world. I mean, yeah, give us an insight into the functioning of your team to ensure that this is what happens on a day-to-day basis.
We have a corporate business manager. All he does is talk to government and corporates. The second one is the person who deals with logistics and checks all the stuff that's coming and it's going out. That's all they deal with. The corporate manager has got 4 people working here, because 4 reports back to the corporates, and we spend how we spend the money, what the projects are for. It's a lot of admin work. They deal with that from one guy. We've got 5 people doing that. Then we've got the internal accountants. The people deal with the phone calls itself. Outside company does all the social media, and of course I go on the field. My job is setting up the projects and making sure they get implemented, and then the logistics people ensure that it's followed up. Then we've got our own vehicles, our own truck drivers, our own packers. We've got offices and warehouses throughout the country, and then of course the social media team, and then in addition to that, which are not all these other people are full-time staff, by the way. I don't have any volunteers. Everybody are full-time staff. I don't want volunteers. I want people who are responsible, who are accountable, who come to work, who can't suddenly say, I'm a volunteer now, the dog got sick on Monday, or the toothache came on Tuesday, and I can't come. We can't work like that, because we work fast with a disaster response agency. We need our people on time all the time. So, all our staff are full-time. The people who are volunteers are people, for example, in the floods, we go to the hall, there's 100 people there, they can collect the food, give it to the people, that's fine. Those people join us. Like yesterday, there were over 100 volunteers in Merebank, covering Merebank, Osterwell, Wentworth, and Bluff. They come with the different organizations, they help you offload the truck, they take the parcel, they give it to the people, but your teams are there. The only other volunteers that belong to Gift of the Gift directly are the medical teams and the search and rescue teams. We only need them when a disaster happens locally or internationally. We don't need them any other time. And each one, they've got their own structure. They've got search and rescue team leaders, where we have 3 or 4 teams, each one got its own team leader. And we've got medical response teams, and those ones got their team leaders also. And then we've got a group of dedicated people that run that whole section, and they intervene with that. And then, of course, we've got a group of counselors on our counseling line, which is 25 years old. On the 5th of May, will be 25 years old, 5 years less than the organization itself. And they have their own group of people dealing with counseling. They used to be volunteers, but I've changed the system. I pay them for the time they give us, because everybody needs money these days. And then, of course, overseas, we've got management systems in each office throughout the world, and we get report backs all the time from every office. And then the logistics people sit with them and have discussions with them all the time. And every now and then, I get part of the whole discussion, and we get feedback on everything that's being done. We see the projects being implemented. They design new projects. We implement them. We get feedback on them. And because of that system, we are getting international donors wanting to support those projects. So even that's great in every way.
And I think the point you made is that, turning them from volunteers into full-time people is you cannot compromise your relief efforts, isn't it? And it's nice and romantic to say bring on the volunteers, but if that compromises your relief efforts, that's a problem, and you don't do that.
No, I don't, because my staff can run a disaster in their sleep. They know, and we've trained them over the years, how to deal with crowds, diplomacy, negotiations, dealing with people, calming down angry people. Well, not angry, it's more desperate people rather. They're not angry, they're more desperate. And when they scream, you think they're angry. They're not really angry. They just worry they won't get something, they'll get left out. When there's water shortages and they're scared the water tanker will get finished and everybody won't get water in the different
Mm.
areas. So you learn how to calm them down. And then we cross the teams. Cape Town team will land in Kimberley. They'll be met by a Durban team, or a Maritzburg team, or a Joburg team. So each driver knows each other driver. Each staff knows each other's staff. They cross-link with each other. They know how to implement. They know how to, to support and augment each other. It's not like the guy does something, the other guy's confused. They don't know what's going on. So all of them follow the same system. They're on workshops. They're on training. They get involved in virtual discussions. Then we have where we bring all the staff, the entire staff complement together to Maritzburg, once a year, and they all meet and they share ideas and they say, okay, what's working, what's not working. So there's continuous, not negotiations, but discussion and working together. So the different provinces and the different offices come up, with similar, same type of understanding. The situation may change a little bit in terms of the different offices. We have different types of interventions that will change, but overall, 98% of the stuff is the same.
I suppose, if we were talking cool drinks, we talk about like what's the magic formula in Coca-Cola. Or if we were talking mobile phones, we'll talk about Samsung and Apple and say what's the magic around what they do. Or if it's chicken, we say KFC or Nando's, right? What's the magic that you could share to say why in one sentence why does Gift of the Givers work?
Because our people are passionate. They don't do this for money. They do this. They give you extra work. They say, delegate work and things get better. It doesn't get, it's the other way for us. The more we delegate, the more work we get. Because every person that's delegated work finds new things to do. And we get all the managers at the same time coming with new ideas and new things. And it just creates so much more work for us. But we're happy because they're thinking for themselves. We allow them to think for themselves. We allow them to make their mistakes. They'll never make it again. Those mistakes are not fatal. It's just mistakes in terms of logistics, of dealing with the people. Keep telling them, do it like this. When they're going to learn? So we allow them to do what they want to do. And that's how the organization has grown.
Well, often when we talk about successful organizations, you're talking about the business, the leader. So even when it comes to sport, you find that sporting bodies or teams succeed and fail on the basis of who the manager or the coach is, right? And the same with government, right? Therefore, give us an insight into the role of the leader of Gift of the Givers, ensuring that Gift of the Givers has the magic and does work. And of course, I'm talking about yourself, Imtiaz.
Well, the important thing is I'm accountable to a spiritual order, to a tariqah, because Gift of the Givers is not my organization. I didn't get up one morning and say, okay, let's form an organization. I'll get some people to be part of it. We'll get a name. We'll write some principles. We'll have some people we're going to do. Never came like that. It was a spiritual instruction to a spiritual teacher that I met in a very spiritual way. An Afrikaner guy tells me of a spiritual teacher in Istanbul. It's 1986. I haven't been to Cape Town in 1986 yet. And I tell the guy, well, how will I get to Turkey? And Afrikaner guy tells me, what God wills happens. There's a time and a place. And the time and the place was August 91. Met a spiritual teacher, went back the following year, August 92, 6th August, Thursday night, 10 p.m. And he tells me in fluent Turkish, my son, I'm not asking you. I'm instructing you to form an organization. The name in Arabic will be Waqful Waqifin. We translated, it came to Gift of the Givers. You will serve all people of all races, of all religions, all colors, all classes, all cultures, of any geographical location and of any political affiliation, but you will serve them unconditionally. You will expect nothing in return, not even a thank you. This is an instruction for you for the rest of your life. And that's the most important part after that. That remember, whatever is done through you, whatever is done through you and not by you. There's a spiritual link. And then he spoke in fluent Turkish. I don't understand a word of Turkish. And I asked him afterwards, when he spoke, I understood every Turkish that he said. All the words he said, I understood him. And yet I don't speak Turkish. And I asked him, how is it possible that when you speak Turkish, I understand, and other people speak Turkish, I don't understand? He said, my son, when the hearts connect and the souls connect, the words become understandable. Then I asked him, you gave me this instruction. I'm a doctor. I'm in private practice. I have 3 surgeries in a place called Maritzburg in South Africa. What am I supposed to do and when am I supposed to do this? After hours, weekends, holidays, when? He just gave me one line. You will know. And that's the thing that drives it. For 30 years, I do know. what to
Well,
do,
well, you certainly
when to
do.
do, yeah, what not to do.
And
And and the staff know that, and everybody that works for me know that.
And certainly when it comes to where I sit in about building South Africa into a champion nation, we need champion organizations, and clearly yours is one of them, right? So, but here's the question before I let you go: how have you maintained? One thing is doing it for like 30 days of Ramadan, or 1 year, or 5 weeks of Hajj, or whatever. How do you maintain delivering on that mandate for 30 years? What have you done to ensure that you are true to that cause through 3 decades?
It's simple. He said, this is an instruction for you for the rest of your life. And we see the value of what we are doing. We see the suffering of people. And we always say to ourselves that our way of paying back is the gratitude that we're not on the other side. And my teams ask me, when we're going to a disaster area, what should we do? And I tell them a simple thing. If your child and your wife was in difficulty, what will you do? And they know exactly what to do. And we see that difficulty every single day. And that's why the staff come back to work on Easter weekend, on Eid Day, on Christmas Day, on every other day, because they're driven by the sense that people need assistance, and they know that we can do it. The thing is, we know we can do it. So we can't sit back. It's like a guilt feeling sitting back if you're not doing it when you know you can do it. And that, and it's a way of a continuous thank you. Thank you, shukr, we're not on the other side. So let's keep giving back and make a difference.
Often, I hear many people asking me about yourself. Many people have not met you, but they're certainly aware of the work. But they do ask this question: what happens to the gift of the givers after Imtiaz Sooliman? And so, what happens to it?
That process is already in the way for the last 5 years. Teams, the organization can virtually run almost without me. Every area has been set up. The structures are put in place. Everybody knows what's going on. There's a spiritual link for people in the organization. It's a question of time that I can just step back and watch while somebody else does it.
Okay, just the last thing, going back to the original point, right, which is the public call to say we would rather give our money to the gift of the givers compared to government or any other organization, right? Obviously, often, effectively, you're doing government's work. You are providing the relief that government can't quite do. Does that put you at loggerheads with government? What's their relationship like with you?
No, we've got a fantastic relationship, because within government, it's government that calls us in the first place to help, and to be fair to government, look, let's make it one point clear. Everybody in government is not a crook. Everybody in government is not bad. There are lots of good people in government, from the politicians to the civil servants, and people who want to do good. We need to make that very, very clear. And those people want to see things change. Those people contact us all the time. Secondly, they make it clear, look, we don't have the budgets. Thirdly, we have to understand that 5.5 million people's taxes can't look after 60 million people. It's not possible. Then you have the extra expenses through COVID, the extra damages, the storms, the July unrest, all that, you don't have the money for. It's extra burden. And then, of course, the dollar exchange, the exchange rate makes things far more expensive, the fuel price, and then there's lax taxes, unemployment, all those things affect government. What they are responsible for is the money that's not well spent, that's stolen, state capture. That they're going to take responsibility of right on the chin. That's their responsibility. That's something they're going to fix. That you can't, they can't escond or get absorbed from that. They're responsible for that. But the reality is, you're going to wait for government. Who's going to suffer? The people on the ground. And why should they suffer? Because the systems are not right. So we try to match it. And I say we've got a very good relationship. What's the name is, in the day, we're fighting, we're punching each other in the teeth and pulling each other's hair out. But in the evening, we're having coffee together. It's that kind of a relationship, where we're blunt, we're straightforward, and it's an excellent relationship. You get ministers calling us, premiers, MECs, mayors, even though we have the fiction on the ground. At the end of the day, when people see each other's viewpoint, we work exceptionally well together.
And lastly, do you see that happening in increasing numbers, that as there's a trust deficit with government, and it's well documented, we know that for all the reasons that you've mentioned, right, that not just gift of the givers, increasingly so, more and more people are looking to people and organizations outside of government to provide solutions, to borrow a well-used phrase, to ensure that we all have a better life for all.
Yes, but it's more about government reflecting on the messages that are going along. It's a time for serious reflection. In essence, the people are saying, we don't need you. We don't want you. We don't trust you. Now, that's a very bad space to be in. And they need to reflect and use this opportunity to fix everything that's gone wrong. And they have to start by purging those that are responsible for that kind of behavior within the system, within the party itself, within government, and every aspect. They need to purge that system if they're really serious about leading. Because we have two options. Either when you go into government, you go there either to serve the country or you go to serve yourself. Right now, it's about serving themselves, and there are very few serving the country, and they need to change that the other way around.
And it goes back to the issue of integrity. Well, I tell you what, Imtiaz Sooliman, you're a classic example. You and your organization of people, or a group of people that, in all the things you champion, you champion South Africa. You champion South Africa by your actions in the country and around the world. So most appreciated, and I hope government takes your advice as well. Thank you for your time, as always. Once again, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
There we are. Fascinating thoughts, and I think this comes back to the conversation we had on good governance with Fairuz Mohammed from SANZF that we had on Friday. So look out for that podcast as well. But here's, I think, a fascinating blueprint in ensuring that the trust deficit is narrowed. It's wide with regard to the people in government, but very narrow to the point of nothing when it comes to the government, rather the people and the gift of the givers. And the question we need to be asking is, why, and how can we therefore replicate that in other spaces in our country? That's step one to becoming a champion nation. We're going to go to France in a moment because there's some developments there politically. But make a note of this in the meantime. Sentio is an ethically based asset manager that is focused on delivering superior risk-adjusted returns for their clients regardless of market conditions. Now, for more info on their Sharia investment products, visit their website, sentiocapital.com, so sentio-capital.com, and start saving towards your investment goals today. Sentio Capital Management, invest for good. Sentio Capital Management is an authorized financial services provider.